The other core deliverable of an enterprise architecture is a business capability model. Now, I would need an entire hour and a half to 2 hours to do justice to a business capability model. The business capability model is the number one deliverable of an enterprise architecture. It is a functional model of the business. It is what the business does, not how it does. So if you're trying to deliver an enterprise architecture, remembering it's about alignment, you need to align your technology design to some view of the business. Okay? In the past, and I made this mistake myself in the early days of enterprise architecture, in the early 90s, late 90s, the only model of the business we had was a business process model. We didn't get any at all, frankly. So you try to align your business process model. Well, business process models are inherently fragile. Yes?
Just a question. Could you align the business capability model?
They're close-ish. IBM sell a thing called a common business model, which is one of those. Capgemini called them table maps, I think. Microsoft called them Microsoft Business Architecture. So there are various models out there. Ours is subtly different, but I couldn't do justice to that conversation right now. You can start with one of them, but it needs to be work to be suitable to be fixed for architecture. Those industry reference models are primarily consulting artifacts. And they don't take into account some core concepts like process affinity analysis, data affinity analysis. Any of you familiar, because it looks like there's a few people here, these old me here, with functional decomposition from the old mainframe days in the 80s. This has its origins and ancestry in functional decomposition and component-based development. But we take the concepts that are used in the IBM business consulting practices to develop those component business models and industry reference models, and we bring both concepts together. So it is both suitable as a business consulting artifact and to drive your architecture. The industry reference models tend not to be suitable to drive an IT technical architecture. Very good for consulting, but not otherwise. So the other way you can use this is as a kind of lingua franca, or those of you who are nerds like me, and we can try these guys and see the label fish. John?
Just in answer to that question, you may be referring to the continuum in TOGAF, I think.
Yeah.
The industry reference model is probably the second in the hierarchy of the whole decomposition of sets of models. And this is the thing that's at the right-hand side of that continuum on the top row, what TOGAF refers to as this continuum. That's where that sits in that whole reference framework.
I guess that's what I'm trying to do, is find the analogy to something like this.
Yeah, this sits at the top right-hand corner of that.
You'll struggle because, for example, that TOGAF industry models are completely unsuitable for a core concept in SOA, service-oriented architecture, if you're going that way. There's a core concept called fortress boundaries. Okay, now, if you're going to do SOA, you absolutely need to determine what your software or service fortress boundaries are. In absence of doing that, you will never succeed. It's the core answer to the question of what is the right level of granularity for my enterprise services in SOA. The references models that exist in TOGAF will never answer that question. This will. Okay, those red boxes that are on here, okay, a bit more detail, they're service fortress boundaries in SOA. In an EAI architecture in the old days, if you ever read a guy called Roger Sessions, we used to call them software fortress boundaries. That's what they were being called in EAI. They're slightly different in service fortress boundaries for SOA, but the base concepts are the same. The models that exist in TOGAF are definitely never get you. I'm fascinated by maybe the next presentation will be on business capability model. We can go there in some detail. But this is the lingua franca, the bagel fish, in two directions. It provides a way for enterprise architects to talk to the business language they understand. The difference that we've had in organizations in the interaction with the executive, you can talk to them about their business now. Instead, the difference in going in and saying, I'm talking about people, and then you go in there and I'm talking to you about customer relationship management. That's a bit of an obvious one that some people instinctively do. But we don't talk applications or solutions anymore ever with the executive. We talk business capabilities. And then you overlay all your other architectures on top. It also provides a common language for the enterprise architects and solution architects to talk. It really is a bagel fish in both directions for enterprise architects. If you're familiar with Hitchhiker's Guide or lingua franca, refer those that term. The other things that enterprise architects deliver is principles, the building codes. So every single domain of that framework, we would go through and deliver a set of building codes. Typically no more than 5 or 10 at each domain. Okay, and that's what the solution architects then are required to attend to. You know, your city planning town building codes, exactly the same analogy. No, I can't tell you the analogy from Vancouver, British Columbia, but for those of you who want to hear it afterwards, it's a really interesting story, primarily because they're now doing the same thing in Adelaide that they did in Vancouver, British Columbia 25 years ago. And it's not a fluke that Vancouver, British Columbia has been voted best city in the world for the last 6 or 7 years in a row. Because they actually started the whole discipline of town planning, as it turns out, in the 40s, which a particularly interesting town planning concept was brought there, which is never been brought to Adelaide from the university. But anyway, these principles, and this one is particularly a integration architecture principle. It actually lands into construction architecture as well, about using the work boundary. I'm not going to explain the technical principle, but I want to point out, this is when you look at Adelaide Bank, these were the set of strategic outcomes that Adelaide Bank determined for its 3 to 5 year strategic planning horizon, which we did this in. Every principle is to pick back to the outcome it's trying to achieve. Okay? And there's a core reason for that when you get to architecture governance, because you're no longer arguing about esoteric technical principles, you're arguing about business outcomes. It changes the whole nature of the discussion of the business. And they develop what's called patterns. So really, each layer of that domain in enterprise architecture is just made up of a set of principles, building codes, and a set of patterns that the solution architects need to follow. This is particularly an SOA pattern, going for any bank, you know, and it shows the base pattern that all integration must follow for a proper PPN SOA strategy. That happens to be the strategy they're adopting. So then the solution architects come along and they take this base pattern, and as they're delivering their integration architecture for each of their projects, they simply create an instance of that pattern. So here's how that gets implemented in a particular project. It's all there. So let's look at that. This is the conceptual design process we use. It could be any other one that you like. This is not meant to be read one. I'm going to take to you in a second, by the way. You got all of that? Excellent. But broadly, you can see it's got the design layers, and I'll go through that in a minute. There's the viability test. The ultimate point of delivery that you're trying to get to at the end of your conceptual design is the solution summary, estimation, work track, and business case. Business case, obviously, beyond business case, you have to unless you're Microsoft and you just go and build things, it's going to forever build it, not care how long it's going to take, how much it's going to cost. So let's expand that out, and this is a little bit blurred. I should point out, by the way, that from this slide on, the next 6 slides will not be in the handout. This is too much intellectual property for you to give away. But everything else in the slides will be. The main point I want to show, again, making a clear point about how important it is to have your enterprise architects flow on to be used by solution architecture. These green are the enterprise architecture artifacts that are inputs to the solution architecture as they're doing these particular places. So if I'm coming along as a solution architect and I'm doing business process design, I know I need to look at business capability model, the corporate data model, because they impact on this. The black ones are their own internal artifacts that flow down from step to step as you're going through. And the deliverables then are the output artifacts in solution architecture, process diagrams, choreographies, service lists, application component lists, and various artifacts. This is the stuff of enterprise and of solution architects. Go to technical architecture. So you can see that I've taken out the black, by the way, just to make it a little bit more readable. It's not the only inputs they have into these phases are not just the enterprise architecture. They've obviously got the business artifacts which flow down into technology design. It's getting too complicated. It's already too complicated. But you can also see what we've got along here is the roles and what they're using a standard Reiki matrix, what their involvement is. So you go back up here, for example, when you're doing stakeholder requests and using pathway analysis, the enterprise architects consulted, the business architects accountable, the architects responsible for communicating with the Reiki matrix. So you can see all these enterprise architecture artifacts, including all the principles coming down and flowing into used by the solution architects. So they're not ivory tower stuff. These are things that are actually then used by solution architects in a practical sense as they're doing their job.